I like to think of real estate as a retirement plan because it's a lot easier than thinking about an IRA. First of all, with an IRA, you can't cash out until you're 65. If you do, you get a 10% fee and then you have to pay taxes, and it becomes a little bit difficult for people to realize how much do I need to put into my IRA so that when I do retire at 65 years old or at 55 years old, how much am I going to need every single year after that, and when am I going to pass away? All of those things are very difficult to think about, so it makes it hard to realize how much you need to actually survive for the rest of your life. Can you retire at 65 or should you wait until you're 70, depending on how much money you have? Is $1 million enough? Is 2 million enough? It's always hard to figure out. The easy thing to figure out about real estate is once you own it, you're getting rental income. And the rental income, say, is $500 per month. Well, it's a lot easier to figure out how much you need per month to survive for the rest of your life than it is to figure out what that big cash number is. So if you know that you need $3,000 per month and you could survive off of that, then you know that $500 per month times 6 properties is going to equal $3,000 per month, and you're going to be able to live off of that for the rest of your life. And if that includes a little bit of savings along the way, then maybe every couple of years you could buy another house and make $3,500 or $4,000 per month. So that's where I think it's much easier to figure out how much monthly income you can make off of real estate than it is off of how much of a lump sum you need in an IRA to actually survive for the rest of your life. So I'm going to admit that I've taken money out of my IRA. I've completely wiped it out a couple of times so that I could buy another piece of property. My wife and I have lived in a very small apartment for a little while so that we could rent out our house until we had our first child, and then we moved back into the house once we had our first child. So those are the types of things that you really need to commit to and do. If you wanted to sell your car for a little while and have a $5,000 car that you own in cash so that you don't have a $350 monthly payment with high insurance and high registration costs every single year, cut that expense for a little while so that you can make some more money and buy another property. Another reason that I like to think of real estate as a retirement plan instead of an IRA, a lot of IRAs allow you to invest in index funds and mutual funds, and you get to choose those with your company. But if you get other types of IRAs, then you're also allowed to pick individual stocks. And even aside from IRAs, if you wanted to save money into a money market account and you wanted to pick different types of stocks, technology stocks, specifically Google or Tesla or Facebook or Amazon or the latest hot stock, that's fine. There's plenty of people who have gotten rich off of that, and again, they end up with a big lump sum, and then how much do you need to survive, and how long do you need to survive? So the thing that I like to think is very simple. People need a place to live, whether they're renting or owning. They need a place to live. You don't need Google stock. You don't need Facebook stock, and you don't need Amazon stock. You don't need any stock. You don't need any company. People don't need that. So there's no desire and demand for people to get into that other than the fact that the company is growing and you want to grow with them. So you don't need McDonald's stock or Disney stock. It's not something that you need to survive. You need real estate to survive. And if you own 5 properties, like it or not, you're going to be able to sell those properties to somebody, or you're going to be able to rent them out to somebody because people need a place to live. I know that it's easier said than done to make positive cash flow, but when you actually look up the rentals in your area, you'll see that a 2-bedroom condo, garden style, a 2-bedroom flat, 1,000 square feet, something very basic, you can look up and see what they're renting for. There's a lot of apartments out there that are renting for that, so you can see exactly what the rental rate is. And then you go in afterwards and start looking at all the condos for sale. And when you see how much it is for sale and you take the mortgage payment, you have to have the lowest interest rate that you can get, or whatever the current rate is, and just put it into a mortgage calculator. Then you add in the taxes and the condo fees. you're not going to have to pay the electric for the tenant. You're not going to have to pay the heat. They have to pay all that themselves. The cable, they're going to have to furnish the entire place. So all of those things are on the tenant. As long as you can make positive money on that, you're going to be doing well for yourself. What I like to think of is how much are you making on the amount that you put into it in the beginning. So like I said earlier, if you're taking out $30,000 from your IRA, you're putting it into this condo. 20 of it is the down payment, part of that is the closing costs, and 10,000 of it is going into the renovations. All of that money is the amount that you're putting into that condo. So that's the money that you want to make 10% on per year. And if you can, that's $3,000 per year. So really, it's only about $250 profit. So if you wanted to rent that condo out for $1,000 and you only have $750 in costs, that's maybe a $200 condo fee, a $200 amount in taxes per month, and then the rest of it goes to $450 or so to a mortgage payment. So if you take that and you're making $250 per month, you multiply that times 12, you're making $3,000 per year. You invested 30. That means that you're going to make your money back in 10 years. And the power of compounding is the number 72. If you divide 72 by the interest rate, then you'll make your money back in that amount of years. So if you're making 10% on your money, 3,000 into 30,000, you're making 10% and you make your money back in 10 years. Technically, you can make your money back in 7.2 years if you reinvest the money that you've gotten. It's difficult to do that on a monthly basis with real estate because you can't exactly buy another condo once you make your first $250 in 1 month. But the fact that you're making $3,000 per year and you're eventually going to put it into another condo, that's the power of compounding, and you should be able to make your money back faster than that. If you want to include the appreciation, then that's one thing, but people don't look at what their house is worth every single day. They don't try to get an appraisal on their condo every single day. But when you have Google stock, you're going to continue looking at it and appraising it every single day to see what the going rate is. Things go up, things go down. Real estate does the same thing, but what doesn't change is your 12-month lease. Once you have a 12-month lease in place, you're going to be making that rental income. It doesn't matter if your $100,000 condo is worth 105, and then it's worth 95, and then it's worth 90, and then it's worth 95, and then it's worth 115. You're still in that same 12-month lease with your tenant, and you're making that $3,000. You put in 30. Just because your condo is going up or down in value a little bit doesn't mean that it changes the amount that you invested. It doesn't mean that it changes the amount of cash flow that you're getting per year. That $250 a month that you're making is also the cash flow. That's not the total amount that you're making. If you also look at the amount of principal that you're putting into your loan every single year, then you're making that money as well. You don't see it and you can't reinvest it that easily, but you are making it. A lot of investors, once they own a condo, say they own 5 condos at $100,000 a piece and they have $20,000 invested in all of them, so they owe $80,000 on each one of them. After 5 years, all of those loans of $80,000 are going to drop down to $70,000, give or take. But for easy math, they drop down to $70,000. They might go and get a home equity loan for the difference again to get back up to that 80% loan to value so that they can reinvest that money that they've saved into the home into another condo. It helps to be leveraged in real estate because if you look at the numbers and you ran the numbers on putting a down payment down, like I just said, you put $30,000 into a condo and you want to make $3,000 per year, that's not that difficult to do. The problem is if you have $100,000 and you buy that condo in cash, now you've invested $100,000 and you need to make $10,000 per year. So it gets very difficult to actually make that amount of money. When you're buying a house or a condo in cash and you're trying to make 10%, it's more difficult. You make more like 7%. But if you can take that leverage and you can leverage it up as high as possible, which is about 80%, and you have that loan attached, even though you're paying the interest, you only have $20,000 invested. You don't have $100,000 invested. So you're actually only trying to make 10% on the 20. So it makes it much easier to make that profit per year and then turn that into a very high yield and it's difficult to make more than 10%, and a lot of people have trouble doing that, and we're not even talking about the appreciation of your house over the years. You know, when you buy a house at the right price and you bargain that extra $2,000, it really helps, because 10 years from now, if you want to sell that house, then uh, which I don't recommend. I recommend keeping it because it's a retirement plan. One final word on real estate as a retirement plan is to never sell. The whole point in buying a condo is for the monthly income so that you can live off of it for the rest of your life. The monthly income is what you want. That's the number you really want to understand. People try to think about, is $1 million enough? Is $2 million enough? If I won a scratch ticket and I won $2 million, would I quit my job forever and live off of that? Well, not if you're just going to deplete it every single month out of your savings account and you spend it and spend it and spend it until it's gone. That's not the way to do something. That's not the way to invest. That's not the way to retire. The way to retire is to take that $1 million that you made, buy 4 houses at $250,000 each, rent each one of them out, and collect the monthly income so that you can live off of the monthly income for the rest of your life. The fact that you have the $1 million doesn't mean anything. If you spend 100 grand a year, you're going to end up out of money in 10 years. So you need to figure out a way to make monthly income on that money, which is passive income. And if you can make $5,000 per month on that, then you know that you can live off of that. But if you're someone who's used to making $200,000 to $300,000 per year, then you're going to have a lot of investment to do before you can get to that point and live comfortably in that lifestyle before you can actually quit your job. But for someone who's only looking to make $3,000 or $4,000 a month and they can live off of that amount, you probably only need 4 or 5 houses. And if you can get into them and you can get your lenders to, you can get into your first house at 3.5% down, and if you move in to your second house, you can get into that with 5% down, and then it gets a little bit more difficult from there, but you start needing 20% down. So, 3.5 and then 5, and keep moving into the new houses, and you'll have less of a down payment, maybe 10% at that point. If you move into it owner occupied, it makes a big difference, because when you're buying something and you're calling it an investment and you're going to directly rent it out, banks and lenders, they just consider it different, and they force you to put down 20 to 25%. So think about the monthly income that you want to retire on if you're thinking about retirement. If you have an IRA, it's a great way to save up money over your entire life and make sure you don't pay any fees, and you can retire at 65. Good for you, but I want to retire long before the age of 65, so I'm not doing that. I'm working on real estate. I like the monthly income. I think it's great. I treat my tenants like customers. I'm there for them whenever they need me. I bend over backwards for them because I think that they're customers. They don't require that much attention. If you want to rent out houses in the slums of ghetto areas, then of course you're going to end up having problems, and you're going to have tenants that complain on a regular basis, and you're going to have tenants that don't pay rent on a regular basis. So buy something in a desirable area. Make sure the rugs are nice, make sure it's painted, make sure it's ready to go. You'll get a tenant in there right away. They're going to walk in just like when you're buying a condo or you're buying a house. You look around and you see the paint and you see everything glistening and you think it looks great. Of course people are going to rent it. Of course someone's going to buy it. That's just simple real estate.